Sure. Okay. Okay. Okay, alhamdulillah. Yeah. Yes.
I think knowledge could very well lead to weakness as well. If knowledge could cause someone to become arrogant, he will stop seeking knowledge anyway. He thinks he knows. So this would actually be better. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. So knowledge can be misused and knowledge can be abused, and in fact it can be harmful for that person. It can lead to weakness. It can lead to a state of weakness, because that is weakness. That is weakness, you know. But okay, so right, we'll take. I'm not sure we're going to be able to go through all of these, but we'll take a couple. What about? I think the knowledge power, knowledge informed decisions is pretty much the same thing. Sorry, anybody's? Yeah, yeah. And then what about knowledge is the responsibility of the individual and a right? Yeah, we'll go this way this time. Just over there. You want to at the end?
Yes, each individual has a right to choose as to the attainment of or the acquisition of the knowledge.
Yeah.
We tend to agree that yes, it's the individual right to choose knowledge as to what they are producing.
Okay. So you agree, yeah? Individual responsibility, knowledge is an individual responsibility and it's a right, yeah? What about Islamically? Is that right as well? When it comes to religious sciences, or however you define Islamic knowledge?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Okay. This one?
We would agree, yes, because it is our obligation. Islam is an obligation that every individual must knowledge. And to what extent? Because all of the knowledge we derive from knowing the divine revelation of Allah, the Quran, and the living guidance of the Prophet Islam. So those are the two most important things that there is what knowledge is derived from.
Okay, good. Okay, this table over there, please. This one over here.
Responsibility of the individual.
Yeah.
And in regards to being a right, it's a right for knowledge to be accessible, but the individual has to make an effort to go and seek it to some extent.
Right. Yeah, even if it's not as accessible as people might want to have it. But still, you've got to...
Yeah, it's dependent on his need as well.
Yeah.
If he's in dire need to it, he has to go and seek it.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah. If people? Yeah. Yeah. They take it for granted. That's true as well. That's true, isn't it? It's true. Knowledge is very accessible nowadays, isn't it? It's everywhere now. You know, it's on YouTube. It's whereas in the past, people used to spend months traveling for one hadith. You know.
instilling the necessity of knowledge within a child is far better than like shooting loads of knowledge and then just
Absolutely, very good point. Yeah. So to create the want, the urge to gain knowledge. Yeah, very important. Okay. I mean, how does this? I mean, do you guys have any examples? I mean, how does this? You know, this. Do you think this just affects Islamic knowledge? By the way, that's one of my questions. Islamic knowledge. Do you think this thing about knowledge is the individual responsibility? Is it just something to do with Islamic knowledge? What about life? What about other aspects of life? What do you guys think?
Yes, because in one instance, the hadith of the Prophet says that in order for you to get married, you need to provide for a wife.
Yeah.
You cannot then fast.
Yeah.
So once you have yourself educated, well then there are different fields where you can go in order to provide and sustain. So it's not only about an Islamic perspective, but it's a whole wider scope.
A whole wider scope, right? That you need to be able to. Yeah. Any examples from anywhere else? Apart from Islamic knowledge, where apart from this as well, this is one as example. Yeah.
So when we discussed it, we had to do knowledge was not only the responsibility of the individual,
Okay.
but it was also the individual, the responsibility of the people who are in charge of authority. So your parents, the leaders.
Education, huh?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because we know that knowledge doesn't only happen where away.
Of course.
It starts as a child. And, so we were thinking in terms of that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Responsibility belongs to even the imam who stands in the law.
It is a responsibility, isn't it? Sallallahu.
If it's around current events, part of the khutbah would definitely be around the world. So we know that the responsibility for imparting knowledge is
For
not
teaching,
just
for teaching. Yeah.
and even if we come across some knowledge,
Yeah.
it's our responsibility to share it with others.
Yeah.
So beneficial knowledge, of course. But
Okay, no, good point. Very, very good point. That it's not just, it's not just individual responsibility, but there are educators that have a responsibility as well. And the first of those educators are parents. They're the prime educators for the next generation. And then you have teachers, and you have imams, and you have scholars. So they also have a responsibility to teach, right? So, I'm thinking of a few examples. I'm thinking, for example, when it comes to food, right? I kind of feel that we've lost the know-how on how to eat, right? What we're essentially doing now is that we're being provided with processed foods, which are highly engineered. Some of them are hardly describable as food, right? Because they're substitutes, which have been concocted in the labs of GlaxoSmithKline or whatever the big pharmaceutical companies, and they're provided to us. And one reason people eat this stuff is because it's cheaper than real food, right? This stuff is cheaper, right? And so what then happens is that has an impact, because you've got all these additives, you've got all this sugar, almost everything processed has some sugar in it. And sugar, sugar, it's more addictive than cannabis. It's higher in the addictivity scale than cannabis is, right? If you give a child sugar once in their life, they'll beg you for sugar for the rest of their life. That's what they'll want. And, so I think it's important as Muslims to be aware and conscious of the world around us. So for example, with the introduction of industrialized farming and agriculture and these huge agricultural companies, especially in America, what's basically happened is that the top layer of soil on the earth is now nutrient depleted, because what happens with organic farming is that people have to work with the land, right? And the soil has to be healthy enough with enough nutrients for the plant to grow. If that isn't there, right, then the plant can't grow unless you use chemicals, artificial fertilizers. So essentially what's happening is that we've got plants, and there's studies done on this. If you look at foods, natural foods today, compare them with 30 years ago, there's a sharp decline in nutrient profile, right? A sharp decline. And this happens in salmon as well. You can see a sharp decline in omega-3 profile. In eggs, chickens that are free range or chickens that are, caged, their nutrient profile is far lower, omega-3, B vitamins, etc., than chickens that have been left to pasture, right? And, because chickens which are caged or in big sheds, they're given grains, and that's not their normal food, right? What their normal food is worms and insects, and that's where they get their protein from. So when they're left to forage, but we don't know this stuff. So what's happening now, we're all eating foods which are much, much less nutritious than they were for our forefathers. And we've got to ask these questions because the rise of chronic disease is massive. It's huge now. It's epidemic, right? Levels. 10% where I'm from, Dr. Rida can confirm this, but 10% of the NHS bill, which is our, the NHS, the National Health Service, where we are, 10% of that is spent on diabetes. 10% of the whole bill is spent on diabetes. If we got rid of sugar, right, there's a doctor that lives in Manchester. He appears on a program on the BBC called Doctor in the House. He went on, and he goes into people's houses and he addresses their needs, right? And very, very good. And he went into a house. Lady's got type 2 diabetes, quite strong. All he does is that he comes into, opens a cupboard, gets a black bin bag, and he throws everything in, right? The ketchup, the jams, everything, right? And then he teaches her how to cook from scratch. Within a few weeks, this is on TV, her type 2 diabetes reverses purely from a change of diet, right? So, these are, and this goes on and on and on, and I can talk a bit about this because it's one of my interests. But for example, milk now, it's pasteurized, right? Milk is pasteurized. And the reason it's pasteurized was because cows were being intensively farmed. So essentially what happened was that you've got cows, they're being pumped full of hormones, they're standing on concrete their whole life, and they're standing in their feces, right? That's what they are, that's how they're treated. And then what happens is that you've got a rise of tuberculosis, TB, in their milk and in their bodies, right? That infects the milk, right? So instead of raising them naturally and in a healthy way, what they started to do was to pasteurize the milk. Now, when you pasteurize milk, right, it has implications. For example, milk contains an enzyme called lactase, right? If you pasteurize milk, it denatures lactase, and lactase helps lactose, which is the sugar in milk, to digest, which is why there's a rise of lactose intolerance. In fact,